Hi YouTube, it's Joshua Miles, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be yet another solved case for my Curious Case series. I hope everybody is staying safe and well during this time of unease and unrest. We'll be out the other side of this before you know it. Everything is temporary. This right now that's going on, this is temporary too. So long as everyone follows the advice given by medical professionals, we will be able to get through this together. A few of you guys helped me tremendously with this video with translations, so I just want to be sure to give a massive thank you and shout out to those people. Be sure to leave them some love down in the comment section because they really helped me figure out this case. I'm also going to just put them on screen now and in the comment section. I honestly wouldn't have been able to film this video without them. Before we delve into this video, I'd just like to give a massive thank you to House Party for sponsoring today's video. As I'm sure you're all aware, the current isolation situation has meant that socializing with our loved ones has become increasingly difficult, with many of us resorting to video calling as a means of contact. Before the people at House Party reached out to me to work with me on today's video, I was already using their service to keep in contact with my friends and family. The app is available for free on both Android and iOS, and it's even available on your computer with the Google Chrome extension. And it allows you to call a lot of people at once, so you can call your entire family, your entire friend group, so you can catch up and check in on them. The app also allows you to play games with your friends. The game my friends and I usually play is the Guess What I'm Drawing game, and honestly, my artistic skills are lacking, but it's still a lot of fun, and it's a really good way to hang out with your friends. You can find a link to download House Party at the top of the description and in the pinned comments. And with all that being said, let's delve right into this case. On Wednesday, the 15th of April 2015, 9-year-old Chloé Ansel was playing in the playground opposite her house in Petit-Courgon, Calais, France. She was enjoying playing with her friends in the playground before she was set to go to a dance lesson at 4 p.m. At 2:31 p.m. that Wednesday afternoon, Chloé's mother, Isabelle Hayat, uploaded to Facebook a photo of Chloé at the playground with the caption, "Chloé prête pour aller à la danse," which translates more or less to "Chloé's ready to go to dance." Though not even 3 hours later, the abused remains of Chloé Ansel would be found in a forest in Calais, and in a heartbreaking case of how a mother witnessed the kidnapping of her own child. Let's discuss the case of Chloé Ansel. Chloé Martine Isabelle Lietta Ansel was born on the 4th of April 2006 in Calais, France, to parents Isabelle and David Ansel. She was absolutely adored by her parents and had the uncanny talent of getting what she wanted, which earned her the nickname of Little Dragon from her dad. Though she didn't let the stereotypical behaviors of a spoilt child rule her identity. She never lived up to that stereotype of being spoiled at all. In fact, she was quite the opposite from what I can tell. Chloé was very loving and very thoughtful of her family members and always helped out when she needed to. From what I can tell, she enjoyed the usual things that most 9-year-old girls enjoy. During March, Isabelle began to let her daughter Chloé cross the road to go buy some ice cream from the ice cream truck, though Isabelle was always careful to watch Chloé from their kitchen window so she could keep an eye on her. The neighborhood that they lived in was deemed very, very safe and had an extremely low crime rate. But even so, as I say, Isabelle would always watch Chloé from her kitchen window as Chloé went and bought the ice cream. Isabelle is described by quite a few sources as being quite anxious about leaving her kids alone and leaving them to their own accord. But as every parent must, she knew that she had to give her children some breathing room and the independence and the responsibilities just so that they could start to grow up. And crossing the road to get some ice cream is a fairly harmless way for a child to, start to grow up. Isabel's anxiety meant that Chloe never really went to get her ice cream alone. She was always being watched and monitored from afar. At the end of March, Chloe had a week-long school residential trip to Vosges Green Class, which is like a nature-based educational facility. Throughout her week on this school trip, she frequently made contacts with her family to make sure her siblings were doing well and to make sure family was good, just checking in. Chloe was the oldest of 3 children, having 2 younger siblings called Helena and Lucas. Sadly, when Chloe was 7 years old, her parents separated, which led to Isabel moving with her 3 children to the popular northern district of Calais, Petit Courgon. The neighborhood primarily consisted of other young families and had the perfect amenities for Isabel to raise her children. The most convenient of those amenities was a playground, which was opposite their house, where Chloe and her friends and her siblings frequented. After Chloe had returned from her week away at the end of March, she embraced her family in floods of tears because she missed them so much and she had been really quite homesick. So she really loved being with her family. Fortunately, Chloe had returned from her trip just in time for her 9th birthday, which was on April 4th. Her mother Isabel filled the house with balloons and birthday celebrations, and she arranged for Chloe's best friend to come over for a sleepover. One of the presents that Chloe received on her birthday was a zipped tunic with black stars on, and she got that from her auntie. Unknowingly, less than a month later, this tunic would be what Chloe wore when she was laid to rest. But what exactly happened on that Wednesday, the 15th of April? Who had done this to Chloe and why? Let's go through the timeline of events that occurred that day. As we know, Chloe's mother posted a series of images on Facebook of her children playing on the playground, with most notably one of the last pictures of Chloe alive being posted at 2:31 p.m. with the haunting caption, "Chloé prête pour aller à la danse." Her dance class was actually only a short journey away, just a short walk away. It was just a few minutes away. You can see in the picture of Chloe that she appears to be happy and is already wearing her black dance t-shirt, clearly very excited for her dance lessons. The family stayed in the playgrounds for about an hour, and due to the hot weather that they were having that day, Chloe and a few of her friends decided that they would go grab some water guns to have a water fight. So they were just running around the playground, squirting one another with water and having a good time. By the time 3:30 p.m. came around, half an hour before Chloe's dance lesson was due to start, Isabel realized that she should probably go up to her flat and grab some dry clothes and Chloe's dancing gear, and also take up her other 2 children so that they could get changed ready for the dance lessons too. There was another adult present at the playground that day, a neighbor, someone who Isabel knew pretty well, and I believe it was actually this neighbor's kid that Chloe was having a water gun fight with, but I couldn't confirm that. Leaving Chloe under the watchful eye of their neighbor, Isabel got Helena off of her pink scooter and Lucas from his bike and took them back to their home, which was just across the street. One particular source mentions that Isabel asked a second neighbor who was sitting in his garden to also keep an eye on Chloe and watch them in the playground, though I'm inclined to believe that this is just a miscommunication and an error on the part of the articles, or perhaps a translation error. I believe that there was only one person watching the children that day, and it was the same neighbor. As we've discussed, Isabel's anxiety meant that she never left her children unattended or really out of her eyesight for very long at all. In fact, Isabel only spent about 2 or 3 minutes in her flat, quickly grabbing what she needed and changing her other 2 children into their dancing gear or into some clothes that they could go to the dance class in before she returned to the playground. While she was in her flat, she occasionally glanced out of the kitchen window in the direction of the playground to see Chloe still playing with her friends. However, when Isabel returned to the playground, in the span of just a few minutes, her entire life would be turned upside down. You see, while Isabel was popping up to the flat to get a few bits, and while Chloe was having this water gun fight with her friend, there had been a man in the playground that day. Somebody who wasn't this neighbor and somebody that Isabel didn't know. This man had been sitting in his car drinking beer. At some point in this short 2-minute span, the man got out of his car and walked closer to the playground, where he was accidentally hit by a squirt of water from Chloe's water gun. This accident would sadly seal Chloe's fate. The stranger then grabbed Chloe and forced her into the back of his car, which was parked right by the playground. Chloe screamed and fought against the stranger, but it happened so quickly, and as you can imagine, it's easy for an adult male to overpower a 9-year-old girl. The stranger, after forcing Chloe into his car, then took off down the street. The neighbor who had been asked to watch Chloe and keep an eye on her stood in shock. Everything happened so quickly that they didn't even have time to react. Isabel came running to the playground to hear screams from this neighbor that Chloe had been taken. People had started coming out of their houses and flats when they heard a commotion. They heard the screams of Isabel and the neighbor and the little girl, and together they all came together to start searching and hunting down the girl. Just around the corner, about 50 meters from the playground, a teenager who lived in the neighborhood saw a bald man holding a little girl to the ground. He had his knee on her, pushing down on the young girl's body. The teenager would later describe that Chloe's legs were moving around, but Chloe wasn't screaming. The man yelled at the teenager, saying, "Go away or I'll shoot your face." Simultaneously to this, Chloe's mother Isabel ran around the corner and saw what was happening. The man then picked Chloe up in a chokehold, an arm around her neck, and threw her back into the car. The man presumably pulling over and getting Chloe out so that he can make her shut up. As Chloe was being thrown back into the car, one of her ballerina shoes fell off and fell to the ground. Isabel was too far away to get to Chloe on time, and she ran towards them, screaming out Chloe's name, which sadly yielded no response from the 9-year-old girl. She could only watch helpless as the red Seat car drove away. I can't even imagine being a parent and seeing that happen in front of my eyes and just being it just happening just out of reach. Isabel took note of the description of the car, and importantly, she took note of the fact that the car had a Polish number plate. Word of the abduction had already hit Facebook and other social media sites, with people sharing details of what Chloe was wearing and a description of the car she'd been taken in. A radio message was sent out to all the police officers in the area and in the greater surrounding area to come look for the car that was reported as being part in this abduction. And that radio message went out at 4:15 p.m, 45 minutes after Chloe was taken. When the police arrived, and in what is probably the most infuriating part of this case, they told Isabel that they were unable to trigger an abduction alert without the 9-year-old girl's father present, without Chloe's dad there. As we discussed earlier, Isabel and David, Chloe's parents, were actually divorced and separated, so they didn't live together. And unfortunately, David didn't live all too close to Isabel either. As soon as David learned of what had happened to Chloe, he immediately jumped on his motorbike and drove as quickly as possible to the police station, running red lights and breaking the speed limit as any dad would, though despite his best efforts, it still took him 25 minutes to get there. David arrived at the police station at 4:09 p.m, which is just over 35 minutes from when Chloe had been kidnapped. The police asked David for some official ID, something to prove he was who he said he was, but unfortunately David didn't have his passport, any actual solid ID on him, besides his vehicle registration, which was an issue for the police because it was against policy to accept that kind of registration before issuing the abduction alert. The officers hesitated, and probably with both of the parents shouting fairly loudly at them, they finally accepted the identification and began to process the request for the abduction alert. The child abduction alert system in France is very similar to the one in the United States, the US's Amber Alert system. When the abduction alert system in France is activated, a warning is distributed for 3 hours across TV channels, radio stations, news agencies, variable message signs on the highways, public public places, over the intercom in stations and metro stations, on websites, across social media, and also on people's phones. The child abduction system in France has only actually ever been used 8 times since its conception in 2006. It differs from the American Amber Alert system due to the conditions that have to be met in order to trigger it. In the United States, 4 conditions must be met. Law enforcement must confirm that an abduction had taken place. The child must be at risk of serious injury or death. There must be sufficient descriptive information of the child, captor or capture's vehicle to issue an alert. The child must be under 17 years of age. But in France, there are 5 conditions that must be met. The removal, aka kidnapping, has to be proven, and it must be proven that it isn't just simply a runaway. The victim's life must be in danger. There must be pieces of information that could be used to locate the child or suspect. The victim must be a minor, and most controversially in this case, the parents of the victim, both parents, have to have agreed to trigger the alert. Due to the fact that the child abduction system in France had barely been used, just those 8 times, it was quite a lengthy process for the documents to be signed and then approval to be given by higher-ups in order to trigger the alert. About an hour and 50 minutes after that radio call was put out that I discussed earlier, at about 5 p.m, a breakthrough was made in this case. While driving around, a police officer found an empty red car with a Polish number plate on the back, and it was found at the back of a forest in Dubrel, which is in the north of Calais. The forest itself is fairly small, only being about 500 square meters big, and was actually surrounded by a group of peaceful and quiet houses. The police officer, upon discovering the car, decided to survey the scene and began to walk down a long, large path that led into the forest. And when that police officer did so, they were confronted with a scene of horror. Not even an hour and a half after Chloé had been taken, her remains were found in that forest. The abduction alert for Chloé's disappearance hadn't even been triggered by the police yet. Chloé had been discovered naked, with scratch marks all over her body and strangulation marks around her neck. Law enforcement scrambled to get to the scene so that they could find any clues that could lead to the perpetrator or anything else that could help aid them solve this case. They were able to take the license plate for the car, the red car found in the car park, which was Polish. They were able to take that and send that off to be compared against the Polish registration system so that they could try and figure out who owned the car. Though, as you can imagine, this process of international cooperation would take some time. Before the car registration could even be sent off, a Polish 38-year-old man was found drunk, wandering around near the forest, and he was found at 6 p.m. He was immediately arrested on the suspicion of murder. The man was also made to take a blood alcohol test, which determined that he had 0.57 milligrams of ethanol per litre in his system. Just to put that into context, the drunk driving limit in France is 0.5 milligrams, which meant that he was above the legal limit and also showed that he was obviously drunk. Due to his intoxicated state, the police were unable to immediately question him when they brought him back to the police station, so they put him into a holding cell so that he could sober up before they could interrogate him. Meanwhile, a forensics team arrived at the scene of the crime so they could take any DNA evidence, which could then be used later on in the trial for this case. Unfortunately, it was also determined in a preliminary test that Chloé had been sexually assaulted. At 9 p.m. that same evening, Chloé's mother Isabel bravely went on national TV and addressed the nation. I can't imagine the strength and courage and bravery that it must take for Isabel to have gone on national TV to discuss what had happened, especially considering her child had been found deceased not 4 hours prior. The Polish man that had been arrested eventually sobered up, and late into the night, that same night, the police began their interviews with him and they began to interrogate him. And during those interrogations, the Polish man confessed to everything. But who exactly was this man, and did he actually just kill this child because she had accidentally sprayed water on him. The man was identified to be 38-year-old Zbigniew Hugh Manske. Hugh Manske had the exact life that you'd expect from a child murderer. He was born in 1977 in the Polish city of Warsaw and was the second-born child of a couple who had a very volatile relationship. His parents ultimately divorced when he was young. When he was a teenager, he would often skip school, and there were several incidents of him acting violently in school, which led to him being suspended a few times. Unable to finish his education, he jumped from part-time job to part-time job, working at one point on a construction site, though oftentimes committing petty theft and violent crimes. He quickly became known to the Polish justice system due to these violent crimes and thefts. For every theft he committed, including his last known theft in Warsaw in the year 2000, he blamed his tough financial situation for being the reason he was forced to steal as a means to survive. According to an article in Le Parisien, in the year 2000, Hugh Manske went back and forth between Poland and France, and he ultimately settled in France. Following that, in 2003, he committed robbery with arms and a home invasion. He was convicted on both those crimes the following year in 2004. He was subsequently sent back to Poland and was imprisoned when he got back to his home country. I couldn't quite distinguish just how long he served in prison for these crimes, though what we do know is that he was released from prison in early 2009, and as soon as he was released, he went straight back to France. We would later find out that the reason that Hugh Manske went back to France was that he had intended to cross the Channel into London to go live with a family member. Though when he got to France, he didn't have enough money to make the journey across the English Channel, so he ended up just staying in France. Subsequently, Hugh Manske remained in the Calais area, and due to his economical situation, he continued to carry out theft and crime. Hugh Manske actually intended at one point to join the French Foreign Legion, though he was unable to due to his criminal record. If you're unaware of what the French Foreign Legion is, according to their Wikipedia page, the French Foreign Legion is a military service branch of the French army that was established in 1831. Legionnaires are highly trained infantry soldiers, and the Legion is unique in the fact that it is open to foreign recruits willing to serve in the French armed forces. This would mean that Hugh Manske, if he hadn't got a criminal record, would have been eligible to serve in this Foreign Legion. Why exactly he wanted to join the French Foreign Legion, I can't say for sure. Maybe he just wanted to be part of the military, though again, I just don't know. Hugh Manske was then seen in a French criminal court in 2010 for a series of assaults. In one of his attacks, he had assaulted an elderly woman with a butcher's knife, just so that he could steal 60 euros. In another, he broke into the bedroom of a 9-year-old girl through the skylight, and upon the mother of the girl hearing him come through into the house, he ran away. He claims in court to have been intoxicated on both occasions. He was actually evaluated by a psychiatric expert who told the court that he was an individual intolerant of frustration, immature, and a lack of self-esteem. He was also found to be very likely to commit another violent crime if he wasn't imprisoned. Some sources also claim that he was diagnosed as a psychopath. As a result of his assault crimes, on the 30th of March 2010, he was sentenced to 6 years in prison and banned from ever returning to France. Hugh Manske only served 4 years of that sentence in French prison before being sent back to Poland, and he was sent back in spring of 2014. The Polish authorities wanted to sentence him for some burglaries that he committed in the year 2000, and so he served in Polish prison a further year for those crimes, and he was released in spring of 2015. The reason that the French were able to send Hugh Manske back to Poland was because that Poland had issued a EAW, or a European arrest warrant. If you're unaware of what a European arrest warrant is, I have discussed it before on this channel, but according to the Wikipedia page on it, the European arrest warrant, or EAW, is an arrest warrant valid throughout all member states of the European Union. Once issued, it requires another member state to arrest and transfer a criminal suspect or sentenced person to the issuing state so that the person can be put on trial or complete a detention period. An EAW can only be issued for the purposes of conducting a criminal prosecution, not merely an investigation, or enforcing a custodial sentence. According to the officials in the Warsaw Regional Court, there was nothing to suggest that Hugh Manske was going to act violently again during his incarceration there, and it was deemed that he was no longer a threat to society. Hugh Manske, following his release, travelled back to France despite being banned on the 15th of April 2015, the day of the murder. If you're an EU citizen, you'll be aware of just how easy it is to go from one member state to another member state. I know from personal experience it can be as easy as just flashing your passport at border control whilst just walking through. So I'm not entirely surprised that Hugh Manske was able to go across the border into France. It's also important to note that there isn't border control across the entire border, so it's pretty easy to get through overland if you were driving, and in this case, Hugh Manske was driving in a car. He was actually spotted that day in a red Seat with a foreign number plate by a resident who lived in the same area as Chloé. They just presumed his car to probably be of Belgium origin and presume nothing more of it. It's also important to note the context of Calais. It is where you get the Euro tunnel to get to England, to go underneath the English Channel. I've been there many times to pass through France. It is a major hub to connect mainland Europe to the UK, so it really wouldn't have been uncommon for a foreign car to have been there or anything out of the ordinary. Apparently, Hugh Manske had come to Calais, and just like before, with the intention of travelling to London to go live with a family member, though this time he had only stopped in Calais to fill up his car with petrol before continuing on his journey. I'm not sure whether he had voyage tickets to go on the ferries or to go on the Eurotunnel to get to London. I'm not sure whether he did have that or not, or whether he was intending to buy a ticket when he got there, which is oftentimes the case, or anything like that. I'm not sure how he was planning to get across, but this is what he told the investigators in his confession. Hugh Manske was seen that fateful day just 500 meters away from the playground, filling up a car at the gas station. He was then also seen drinking beer while sat behind the wheel of his car, just moments before Chloé was abducted. At some point, he had decided to get out the car and go closer to the playground, where he accidentally got hit by a spray of water from Chloé's water gun, and then violently abducted her and murdered her. The day after Hugh Manske was arrested, he was indicted for abduction, kidnap, rape, and murder. It took almost 2 years for the trial in this case to take place, with the first trial date set to take place on the 11th of September 2017. Hugh Manske had been kept in solitary confinement since his arrest. However, unfortunately for Chloé's family, true justice wouldn't be found in this case. On the 15th of May 2017 at 7:30 p.m, Hugh Manske was found hanged in his cell. This would mean that Hugh Manske would never look Chloé's family in the eye. He would never provide answers to Chloé's family's desperate questions, and he would never be truly tried under law. Justice would never be found in the eyes of the law. He would never be condemned for his actions. How Hugh Manske was able to hang himself while in solitary confinement with regular patrols checking on the inmates is a question that Chloé's family still asks to this day, and a lot of the general public asks to this day. How was he able to do that? Fortunately, the French people never forgot, and they stood with Chloé's family through all this pain and trauma. The day after the murder, on the 16th of April 2015, a white march took place, which involved over 5,000 people marching, all donned in white and in silence, in Chloé's memory. An act of public support and an act of public mourning. 2 days later, on the 18th of April, a second white march took place to show even more support for Chloé's family. According to Wikipedia, Miss France 2015 took part in this second white march. The playground where Chloé was abducted was lined with white roses children's drawings and poetry. On the 25th of April, people came together to hold a white balloon release in memory of Chloé. On the day of Chloé's funeral, the mayor of Calais declares that the playground should be turned into a place of rest and into a memorial for Chloé. It seems clear to me, and it must seem clear to you too, watching this video and learning about this case, that Hugh Manske was pure evil. It breaks my heart that Chloé's family can never find justice under law in this case, but I hope that Hugh Manske's death gives them some kind of justice in some way. Let me know what you think about this case in the comment section down below. And that's everything that I have for you in today's video. Again, thank you to those lovely people who helped me with translations and pronunciations in this video. I appreciate you and I love you very, very much. Be sure to give them support in the comments down below too. I'm trying to get more videos out as frequently as possible, though right now my entire family, as with many people in the world right now, my entire family's come home. So there's 6 people in this house right now, which, as you can imagine, is very noisy and loud, which makes it very difficult to film, but I am trying to get more and more content out for you. I hope everybody is staying safe and well, and that everybody is nice down in the comment section down below, because positivity is what we all really need right now. Again, a massive thank you to House Party for working with me on today's video. Be sure to download the app by clicking the link at the top of the description or in the pinned comment so that you can easily keep in touch with your friends and family. Don't forget to jump over to Instagram and Twitter to follow me over there. I post updates on when I'm posting videos and ask for help with translations, and also just tweet about my day-to-day life. So if you want to go see me unfiltered, then be sure to jump over to those 2 platforms. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can be notified every single time that I post a brand new true crime video. Also, be sure to check out my true crime podcast, Crime Time. There's a link in the description. If you didn't see my last video discussing the hidden cult within a Kanye West video game, then be sure to click the link in the iCards and go check that one out, because that case is really interesting. Me and my friend did a massive deep dive into that case. I even decompiled the source code of the game to take a look at what was going on behind the scenes. So be sure to go check that video out. And with all that being said, I will see you in the next case.